Good afternoon, everybody. I've got to start with a confession for you all. My name is Sian, and I am a plastic addict. And unfortunately, everybody in this room, all of us, everybody in this building, everybody in Amsterdam, even you good guys that know what you know, especially what we've learned this morning, we're still addicted to this simple, casual, cheap, throwaway, grab-and-go, convenient, lightweight, miracle material. But we know now what it's doing to us. And you would imagine that perhaps things would be slowing down. Maybe there's a slight tapering off of demand for plastic right now. But unfortunately, no. This is the truth. A new stat just come out from Greenpeace. Plastic production set to quadruple in 10 years. And here we are already, where we have, in 2015, there is 1 ton of plastic for every single human being on the planet. Just the plastic waste that we have in our environment right now, if you made it into a Lego brick size, I love these visual analogies, you could wrap our planet 15 times with just the plastic waste, and every day we're pumping it out more and more and more. Nothing is slowing down. So obviously what we're talking about here today is what are the levers of change going to be? And we know that we're going to need some kind of policy. And what's always been interesting to me is how plastic is such a symbol for everything that we are doing wrong, really, that society has built itself on. The way that we do business, our whole commercial model, the way that our consumption has just ramped up to this crazy level of hyper-consumption where we're buying. I mean, in the UK, we buy so much stuff. We have the biggest outsourcing business of stuff in the world. We've got so much stuff, we can't even keep it in our own houses anymore. We have to outsource our stuff. And plastic has been the enabler of this. So when people say, why does plastic get all the media attention? It's very simple. It's because plastic actually is the gateway to the climate crisis. It's been the enabler of so much that we have done wrong. And we live in this world now where I'm sure it's the same, it's throughout Europe, it's definitely prevalent in the UK, but we live in a world of this. Everybody's got a pact or a pledge or a promise or a policy. All of it is words. So much media attention. I mean, even this summit today, it's in the whole of the UK press is covering this summit. It's in the Times, we've got ITV filming it here, we've got BBC covering it, but nothing is slowing down. So I love this analogy, which is all of these pacts and pledges, particularly the Alliance to Prevent Ocean Waste, which is signed by some of the biggest polluters on the planet. For me, it is like arsonists lobbying for better fire extinguishers. Signing that pact with one hand, and then signing with the other, a massive ramp up in plastic production. And these are the weasel words of the decade for me. Because these are the things that mean nothing. These are the guilt appeasers. These are the words that we can hide behind to continue the status quo. Recyclable plastic. Where are these recycling fairies? Who is this industry that is going to take the 120 billion plastic bottles pumped out by Coca-Cola alone? I don't know where they are. So putting recyclable plastic on your press advertising is absolutely a weasel word. Recycle plastic, we all know. Tap water. We all know it is only one step away from the bin, the incinerator, the ocean, the landfill. Recycle plastic is just a one-step thing. It's just another delay. Ocean plastic, I'm sorry, but this massive thing of people making stuff out of ocean plastic, why are we glorifying something that shouldn't exist in the first place? It's so wrong. And then this other little weasel word that everybody knows, and last year I think it was word of the year in the Oxford Dictionary, single-use plastic. And we think that single-use means a straw, or maybe a disposable coffee cup, or these things, when I'd just like to give you another provocation, which is, look at this clicker. Is that clicker ever going to be another thing? It might be used 300 times. It's never going to be another thing. This is single-use. The soles of my trainers, they're single-use. Probably that chair you're sitting on is never going to be another thing. So again, we're hiding behind words. And that word single use is so wrong. When people say 40% of all plastic is single use, no, 9% of plastic has ever been recycled once, rarely twice. Therefore, I say 91% of plastic is single use. And the whole thing about addiction is we look in the mirror and we start to tell ourselves the truth. Otherwise, who are we lying to? We're only lying to ourselves and our kids and our kids' kids. So this is another phrase I absolutely love. Recycling is the fig leaf of consumerism. It's a great line, isn't it? I don't even know who came up with it. I put it in quotes because I can't own it, but I love it. I might just steal it. But the fig leaf of consumerism, it's exactly what it is. It's the thing that makes us think it's okay for us to keep going on. We talk all the time about the circular economy, like Ellen MacArthur discovered something called the circular economy. We slightly forgot nature had one for billions of years. We haven't invented it. Everything went back to the soil. We broke the circular economy. We broke nature's circular economy with the Industrial Revolution. So now we need to have a radical rethink. So we founded A Plastic Planet 3 years ago, myself and my co-founder, Frederica, and we had one goal, which is this, to ignite and inspire the world to turn off the plastic tap, not to talk about recycling, there's plenty of people talking about that, but really just to say to the world, perhaps we do not need, in 10 years' time, 4 times the amount of plastic that we pump out every single year. Perhaps that is not the answer. How can we turn off the tap? And these are some of the things that we do. So legislation, taxation is obviously what we're talking about right here. I'll come back to that. I'm an entrepreneur. I am the most least likely eco-warrior, the least likely plastic saint you will ever meet. So I believe in the power of business. I believe business can change the world. So we want to ignite business from within, rather than perhaps the traditional kind of activism, which was attack it from the outside. We are tomorrow actually launching the world's first resource library of plastic-free materials, because every designer, every brand director will say, well, what else can I use? Because this default material has become something that we can't even think beyond it now. We're in a little plastic box we can't get out of. So we're launching a new resource library. We believe that it's also about giving people choice. In this world where you can buy fat-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, whatever free, I could choose anything. I could choose what sex I want to be today. But I can't choose to buy plastic-free. We are force-fed plastic, even though we know what we know now. So we fight for the consumer. And then this whole thing of elevating sustainability, because at the moment it's always been this slightly hippy-dippy, slightly green, slightly knitted armpit, hairy sandal thing on the forest floor. We need to take it off the forest floor. We need to put it right up here. This is the ultimate in luxury, something that doesn't damage the planet. It has to be positioned as luxury, because then that will pull the rest of the market. So these are our kind of, everyone loves a pillar, these are our 5 pillars of action. We started, I don't know if any of you heard, February last year in Amsterdam, we opened the world's first plastic-free aisle. And that for us was something, it took us a year, it was no accident, it was in Holland and not in London, because you Dutch are so far ahead of us. But what was amazing to me was the media attention for this, because by the time we launched, Blue Planet 2 had happened, the world was starting to wake up, and it was like this symbol of hope for people, that they could come and they could buy plastic-free today, not in 5 years' time with another pact or a pledge or a promise, but today. So we have phenomenal worldwide media attention for this. We then did another project. This is in a North London supermarket where the owner said, come in, just take it over. And we wanted to see if we could just show leadership really by example. Because everybody's still, particularly in the UK, saying, yeah, I'm going to make my products are going to be 100% recyclable by 2030. So in 10 weeks, we took 2,000 product lines plastic-free in this supermarket. And the best thing that we had was that we had a business case study, because business is up. And there is no retailer, food retailer in the UK who is showing an increase in sales in a brick-and-mortar store. This is the only one. So that's an incredible thing for us, right? It's good for business, tick. And the second big thing was no increase in food waste. Because that's the other thing that obviously the plastics lobby will say, yeah, but it's about food waste. We can't possibly reduce plastic packaging because we'll increase food waste. No increase in food waste. So we continue to work with this store in North London, in Thornton Budgeons. And we now have 3,000 product lines plastic-free. It's about to go up to 4,000 in the next couple of months. This is our live lab. We've had every boss in every supermarket has come to this supermarket, to this one in North London. We've had Sobeys from Canada come in. We've had Chinese guys come in. We've had South Koreans come in. So that's amazing that there's something happening, which is a symbol of change that can happen today, which is what we have to have. But going on to policy and taxation and this whole thing of igniting industry from within, one of the things we became painfully aware of, and the UK are not alone, this is happening from the US, it's happening from the recyclers of the planet, the Germans. Everybody is doing this. So when we put our little rinsed out yogurt pot in the bin, and we think I'll put it in the right recycling bin, and then we don't really worry about where it's going, this has been the wake up that the world's had. And I don't know, there's lots of different countries represented here today, but in the UK particularly, the scales have fallen from our eyes in the last 12 months of the scandal of the fact that we have been shipping over 60% of our plastic waste to developing countries. So not only are we sending it to places like Indonesia and Malaysia, yes, good on Malaysia sending it back, that's a great movement, but sending it to countries that we know they have a high record of waste mismanagement. We're finding new places to send our rubbish now. Places like Myanmar, places like Mozambique, who are suffering from those terrible floods. So we, the rich West, are sending our plastic waste to the poorest people on the planet. I'm ashamed of that. That we think it's okay to rinse out our pot and pop it in the bin, and that's the end of my responsibility. Now we know, we will never unknow that this is what's happening. So when people say to you, I understand it's 10 rivers in Asia and Africa, and that's where all the waste is coming from, let's just remember this. Whose waste is it? Have they really got the money to buy all of those products? Or is it our waste that we have sent to them, crammed it into a container? And I just want to show you that, which is, this is what British recycling looks like. And this was the first lawsuit. And this, of course, is why China said, we don't want to be the world's rubbish dump anymore. Because this is what we were sending. Soiled nappies and sanitary towels, electrical items, laminate flooring. This is not nice, clean, rinsed out PET bottles that perhaps could have one extra life, rarely two. So it's great that this is now starting to come to light. So one of the things that we're doing is that we are pushing for a new law, because we feel that what we're doing right now is the worst of waste imperialism, and we have to stop. So we are asking for a law that bans, outright ban, on the export of our plastic waste to developing countries. I'd love Parliament to clap it like that as well and say, yes, let's make it happen. But we have 40 cross-party MPs. They're a little busy right now, I don't know if you've heard. There's a few distractions. Drives me mad. Trust me, in 50 years' time, we won't be talking about the B word, but we will be talking about the P word. But hopefully, let's see what happens in the next couple of months, but we'll get some traction here. Because we all know, if we see it, we will have to deal with it. And whenever there is any kind of anarchy, what's the first thing that happens? The rubbish isn't collected. The rubbish piles up on the street. So if we can make that happen in the UK, and I heard you say California is the fifth biggest. I thought it was the UK, so we might have to have a word. We must be the sixth then. Sixth biggest economy in the world. If we can have rubbish piling up in the street, if we have to deal with our own dirt, we're going to turn off that tap. Because right now it's invisible to us. We also have to create a level playing field. And one of the things that's been talked about is having a tax on plastic. Some of you may have heard that anything that has less than 30% tax, 30% recycled content, will have a tax levied on it. We feel that's not going far enough. And we are lobbying that anything of any kind of plastic has to have a tax. Plastic is the most subsidized material in the world, from the most subsidized industry in the world. So any other material that is trying to get traction does not have a level playing field. And even if it's got 30% recycled content, trust me, people will find a way around that. How are they going to measure it? Every single bit of plastic going to be measured? How do you measure for recycled content? Do we really think industry is going to self-regulate this? It's so much better. Let's just say the world needs less plastic and tax it all. Create that level playing field. The other thing that we do is we do these things called plastic hackathons. And when I talk about this thing of igniting business from within, this for me is a very important lever of change. So we did this hackathon with Unilever, 5th biggest polluter on the planet. One of the very few to come out and say, I don't know if you're Alan Jope, who is the new CEO of Unilever, actually came out when he first took office and said, we are in the business of branded pollution. And his PR department nearly shot him. They couldn't believe it. They were horrified. I thought it was fantastic to come out and be that honest. So we love working with these guys because, yes, they're a massive polluter, but they know and they're honest about it and they try and change. So we wanted to focus on the 46 billion plastic sachets that they pump out every single year, majorly in developing countries. We all know where they're going. And the good news is that at the end of this year, we will be running some trials in Indonesia with a new material to eradicate this 46 billion plastic sachets. And if we can do that, imagine who else is going to follow. This is our working towards plastic-free certification mark. We introduced this to help business communicate that they were on this path, the plastic path to ruin, and they are now on a different path. So this, we are working with a number of organizations because I think it's very important. Industry are terrified to say what they're doing. They are worried that people will simply point out what they're not doing. And we cannot always be pointing the finger of blame and guilt because that gets us nowhere. We have to help people change. So I'm going to leave you with a few little thoughts. She keeps telling me to wrap up. This is not a shopper problem. It's not a waste problem. It's definitely not a litter problem. This is a production problem. So this is what we need to change. And when we're talking about the 3 R's and all of those things, I'd love to talk about these, which for me, this is the new language of plastic. And when Client Earth, and I loved Lisa as well, talking about this is what we're talking about. Because now we know what we know. Responsibility is coming home to roost. And with responsibility comes culpability and eventually comes liability. And that is going to be the lever of change. Because if industry feel that human health is at risk, which is why I'm so excited that we're doing what we're all doing here today, that would be a lever of change because then we have liability. This is one thing that made me feel very optimistic. I don't know if anybody saw this. Had a fair amount of press in the US. On the 19th of August, the business circle got together to say, I wonder if it is time to redefine the purpose of business. Because in the 70s, Milton Friedman said that business of purpose is singular, and it's to make profit, and nothing else. Nothing else matters. Reward shareholder value and make profit. And all these good guys, 200 of the biggest companies in the world, got together and redefined the business of purpose, the purpose of business even. And profit is number 5. And the environment and equality and paying a fair price for things and community and all of those things came first. So if people actually practice what they preach, then we live in very extraordinary, positive, hopeful times. We just need to make it happen faster. When I grew up, I had a book called The Book of Tomorrow. And this was like a glimpse into the future. And for me, I couldn't even imagine that this could be possible. It had flat screen TVs, and people flew around in little glass bubble jets and type things. We didn't even have a TV. I couldn't imagine this was possible. Our kids don't dream like that. Our kids have a different dream. They dream of climate crisis. They have climate stress. They go on strike. It is our responsibility now to reimagine a new, more positive future for them. And this is my final slide, which I saw that Trudeau said in Davos. And I feel we are at that point now that today, it might not be a sharp tipping point. It might be more of a curve. But today is the beginning of a new beginning. And the pace of change has never been this fast, but it will never be this slow again. Excites me, because that really makes me think it is now going to start to pick up. And everybody here The one line I would love to leave with you to think about is, trust me, 2 unreasonable women 3 years ago started this with not a clue with what we were doing. And what I have learned is each and every one of us, we have way more power than we think. Thank you.